Hi guys, my name is Keturah. Welcome to Heal With Me, where we address our trauma wounds and we practice healing together as a safari, okay? Um, Hi there. Have you ever wondered how do you begin to address those traumatic wounds and experiences that you've endured in life? Well, if so, stay tuned and keep watching as we dive into wound care. In today's video, we're going to address how to acknowledge the wounds. How do you even know what they are? How do you know some signs and symptoms of a wound? We're going to look at stages of wounds. We're going to look at chronic wounds versus acute wounds and when they transition. We're going to look at how to clean up your wounds. And hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have some practical tips and tools on how to begin the process of healing those traumatic wounds. Stay tuned. Alrighty, so let's dive right in to our very first step in wound care. So I want to explain how God kind of dropped this to me one day. As most of you know, I'm a nurse. Probably say that 15,000 times in every video. And the reason why is because people are like, who the heck is this lady? And how does she have this like medical knowledge? And then how does she know how to heal trauma wounds? I don't know. Ask God. Just some random thing that came to me and I'm here for it. I'm totally here for it. I'm passionate about it and I'm serious about helping to assist and support in healing as I continue to assist and support myself through this healing process. So anyways, as you can tell, I'm still kind of like camera shy. I'm getting used to like being in front of the camera and stuff. I don't know how people be like, oh, look at me. I'm like, back away. Anyways, so today we're going to get into wound care. Those are like bloopers. Today we're going to get into wound care. So when God dropped this in my spirit, what he showed me was, imagine a body. So I want to have you just close your eyes for a second. I'm going to kind of create a picture for you. Picturesque scene is what I was trying to say, but it didn't come out. Okay, anyway, so I'm going to create a picture for you. Imagine a body not belonging to anybody that you know or a human being, but imagine a body. Imagine a body that has a bunch of holes in it. So imagine if you take a circle, take a golf ball and imagine pushing that golf ball into the person's body. As the golf ball gets pushed into the individual's skin, it creates a hole, kind of like a tunnel. As the tunnel is created, you get to peek inside. As you peek inside, you notice that there's redness around. It's pink, it's red in color, and it's open. You can insert your fingers into it. You can put that golf ball back into it. Now imagine yourself being that individual, the individual that has these golf ball size holes in your body. Every time something traumatic has happened to you, it's created one of these open wounds. One key to healing is to acknowledge that those wounds are present. You can open your eyes. So as you've just imagined, you have most of us have many and not just one, golf-size ball wounds in your body in various areas. You can put them wherever you want. I'm very imaginative. I picture things. That's how I cope, I guess. Anyhow, so imagine having all these golf ball size wounds on your body. So as a nurse, we do something called wound care. We have nurses who actually specialize in wound care, and it's always been something very fascinating to me, something that I thought I would do in my career, and it just didn't take me down that path. But anyhow, so I love wound care, and I realize now why I was so fascinated with it. It has a lot to do with healing. So let's look at next the stages of wound care. All right, guys, so next we're going to look at the stages of wound care. There are 4 stages of wound care when it comes to caring for wounds as a healthcare provider. The first layer, and I'm going to take this wound care analogy, idea, theme, and I'm going to translate it into healing and assessing and acknowledging those golf ball sized wounds that you have in your body, okay? So the first stage is the epidermis stage. It's stage 1. So these are labeled stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to try to put a picture here so that you can actually see what it looks like, okay? So stage 1 in wound care is wounds that hit the surface of you. They're the epidermis, which is that top layer of your skin, right? So imagine something that's on the surface, okay? That's a stage 1 wound. Stage 2 is a little beneath the epidermis, almost into that dermis stage or phase, okay? So stage 2 is a little beneath that. Like imagine a wound that ends up with like a blister or something on it, okay? So that's kind of into the skin, but not super, super deep. Stage 3 is the subcutaneous tissue, which is your fat tissue. Now we're starting to dig deep. Those are those deeper wounds. You'll see from the chart here. You see how deep that is? Those are the ones that hurt really bad. Those are the ones that most of us have, but I'm going to take it to step number 4, which is where I believe most of us experience the most traumatic stages in wounds, and that is stage 4. That goes deep down and into the bone. So most of us who experience traumatic experiences in our lives, we have deeply embedded wounds. Those wounds, that golf ball, when it was injected into us, the golf ball goes deep into our skin, right? And oftentimes we see a lot of wounds. Most common wounds are like bed sores, right? So those are sores for individuals who are geriatric patients most often, or bedridden patients of any kind. And they typically are laying on the same spot for so long that your skin just tends to just break down. I've seen them like deeply, deeply embedded to where I could actually see the individual's bone. Now you can imagine that that's got to be pretty painful laying on that or even experiencing that. It's the same thing with our traumatic wounds. They are very painful. They dig deep into the bone. And imagine someone touching your bone with anything, a finger, whatever, right? So what I want us to do next is to dig into the type of wounds and how they go from acute to chronic. So an acute wound is something that is that epidermis, maybe lower part of the epidermis into the dermis layer, which is that second layer of your skin. And then as they transition over time, and you've had the wound for over a matter of weeks, I don't remember how many weeks it is, but it's over a matter of weeks or so, then that becomes an acute wound, a chronic wound. It's acute initially because acute, if you remember from our previous video on what trauma is, we have acute, chronic, and complex traumatic experiences. So the acute is where we start. That's when something just kind of knocks you out the blue. That's that first little, that bed sore example. I have a little redness here. It's red on my skin. Probably need to do something about that, okay? Over a matter of weeks, nothing's done. I'm still laying on this. No one's turning me. I'm not being flipped over. I'm not going anywhere. I've been laying in this bed for 10 years, okay? It's going to become a chronic wound at that point in time. So when I started to ask God about like how to heal and what I needed to do, God started to show me that the first thing you need to do, daughter, is to take that wound. He gave me that golf ball analogy. So imagine having a hole in your body. That hole is the wound. So in order to start to acknowledge or start to heal the traumatic wounds, you have to go in and acknowledge that that wound is present. Now, here's something that is very, 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 very painful, is that when you have a chronic wound, in order for you to acknowledge it, you have to aggravate it a little bit. We used to sometimes on the wounds, the wound nurses would kind of like scrape the sides, or just kind of the physicians, just to kind of get some of the dead skin or dead cells off of the inside of the golf ball, okay? This is the inside of the wound. They're scraping just a smidge just to try to aggravate it enough to get those new, fresh red blood cells bubbling up and excited to come in. Your skin grows from the inside out. Your wounds heal in the same way, okay? So keep that in mind, keep that idea in mind as we go throughout the rest of this video, and it'll all come together. Stay tuned as we look at chronic wounds and what causes them. Alrighty, so again, after a wound is acute for a period of time, it becomes chronic. These are our traumatic experiences. We've been sitting on them for months, for years, for our whole entire lives sometimes, right? We don't know what we don't know. So, hey, what are we gonna do? Until you know, you don't know. So what causes some chronic wounds? Well, the first thing that I want to talk about is poor circulation. So again, someone who's been laying in a bed for so long. Now that will relate to us as humans and our traumatic experiences by not exposing ourselves to new perspectives. So poor circulation in a physical body creating a wound, a chronic wound, is equivalent to us not being exposed to new perspectives, ideas, and thoughts. I remember years ago, a pastor of a church that I went to said, if everybody around you looks like you, then the problem is you. And I am a firm believer in that. If your friends don't look different than you, if they don't think different than you, if they don't have different ideas or perspectives than you, or if you're not opening yourselves up to individuals who have different perspectives, ideas, and thoughts, coworkers, this could be people on YouTube, people online. If you're not listening or willing to step outside of you to gain a new perspective, meaning go outside of your culture, go outside of your church group, get outside of the people that you do everything else with. Find something and someone that thinks differently than you. The reason why is because they're going to help you to gain a different perspective on life. And I believe that if you don't have people around you, or if you don't know people that don't look like you, you're really missing out on life. There's so much that we can gain from one another, but we have to be willing to embrace our differences in order to be able to embrace new perspectives, to mature, and to grow up. Alrighty, so second thing, you can tell I'm serious about that. My family is everything. everything, every ethnicity, everything you could think of is in my family, and I absolutely adore and love that about my family, and I feel like that's given me the perspectives that I have growing up. So anyhow, get you some friends that don't look like you. You don't want people looking like you. Everybody look like you, got the same ideas, thoughts, mindsets most of the time. Get somebody who don't look like you so they can give you something new, and you'll be amazed at how much you've been missing out on. It's just fantastic to me. I love it. So anyhow, no judgment though. Do you, boo. I'm just trying to help you if you want to get healed, okay? So the next thing is infection. If a patient has an infection, that's going to lead to other potential complications or risk. So for us, if we have an infection, meaning there are other things within us that would slow our healing process down. For example, a complication or an infection within us would be, well, the example I just gave. I'm going to use it. I'm saying it. Church. I'm just going to tell you. A lot of times, how can I say this, Lord? Within a lot of church groups, everybody thinks the same. That's an infection, guys. That's an infection. It's slowing down your healing because you're stuck in this one way of thinking. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Black and white thinking. If you think that something is right or wrong and there's never any other way, then you are not allowing yourself to be open to new perspectives. That is an infection. An infection is something that comes in your body causes inflammation, causes stress. It causes your body to react and to respond in ways that it should not be acting and reacting. It kicks you out of your homeostatic state, which is your Zen state, your state of peace, right? You want to be in homeostasis as often as you can. That's Zen, that's peace. When you have an infection in your body is disrupted. Your body is fighting. It's sending all of T cells. It's sending the army. It's like, everybody get out there and go to war. We got to get this out of us. So black and white thinking will keep you infected. Trust me, I know, because I lived in it for almost all of my life. Almost all of my life. I still war with God. How do I not see things as right or wrong, or this is okay, or this is sin? You know, like, how do I get out of that? And the reality of it is just accepting that you're not God and that you don't get to judge and to determine what is right or wrong. The Bible can say it, but he did not give you the ability to judge it. So keep your opinions to yourself, pray for people, and love them the way that God loves you in spite of how you are. All right, that was a little tangent. Anyhow, so diabetes, if you are diabetic, nothing against you, but if you're diabetic, then you know this. If you're diabetic and you have any type of wound, it takes longer for that wound to heal. The reason why is because you have damaged blood vessels. If you're diabetic, you've been diabetic for years, your blood vessels will be damaged over time. And what that does is that slows down the healing process. So diabetes for us who may not be diabetic, by medical diagnosis, diabetes for us is previous wounds. So what we feed ourselves, right? So what we're feeding ourselves. So if we have previous wounds and we continue to feed ourselves with environments, people, and situations that are gossipy, that are continuously negative, that are feeding into our victimization, feeding into, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Oh, you need to totally defend yourself. You don't even need to be dealing with them. You need to get them, you need to pay them back. That's diabetes. If you feed into that, all you're doing is pouring more salt on the wound. That's the best way to say it, right? You're pouring salt on the wound. So get rid of that poor circulation, the infection, the diabetes, and then lastly is if you have underlying medical conditions. That falls into the previous wounds. If you have childhood wounds, which every human being alive does, there's not a person alive that does not have a childhood wound. So you are not alone for however many you have. I've had tons. Not a parent's fault. It's absolutely not your parents. Most of the time, it's not your parents' fault. If your parents intentionally cause harm to you, then absolutely, it's their fault. But most of the time, you only know what you know. It's the same thing with us. We only have the capacity, you hear me say this all the time, you only have the capacity to accept what you have the capacity to accept. And some people, unfortunately, no judgment, they just don't have the capacity. For example, my cup here. Some people may only have this much. But there goes that black and white thinking. That doesn't make them a bad person. They may have this much and you may have this much. If you have this much, it's because you have something to offer to others to help them so that they can come up here with you. It's not so that you can look down on them and say, hey, you only have that much capacity. And that goes back to like playing God and thinking that it's okay for us to condemn or to judge or to the right word, I don't know why I'm hearing dispel people or like just shoo them away just because they don't have what we have. And trust me, I tell you guys this all the time. I cannot tell you these things if I have not experienced them myself. I've been there. I've been even in church, like, oh my God, like, I don't know why she's like that. What is she doing? Ooh, she's doing that. Oh my God. And then God just ripped my world apart. Girl, who you think you are? Train wreck, explosion. No, that's not the way that it is. We don't get to be God. We don't get to step onto his throne and dictate what's good and not good for others. So those underlying medical conditions, that was the fourth thing that I was mentioning, was underlying medical conditions. Those are the childhood wounds, and those are the mother and father wounds. In my next series, I think I'm going to go over like some childhood wounds and talk about healing the father and the mother wound, because those are things that are extremely important to me. But stay tuned for that. Okay, drop a comment and let me know. Put the little family, the little mama, daddy, and the baby, or daddy, and the baby, whatever you put. I don't care. Put whatever you want to put. Put your little family emoji down if you made it this far in the video. Alrighty, so wound care, step 2, or the last part of wound care. Let me rephrase that. Is I get so excited and I'm like, I got all my little notes here and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get it out. I'm just excited because it feels good to know that you didn't go through everything that you went through for no reason. And I don't care if only one person ever watches any of these videos and is like, oh my God, like I never thought about that. This is fantastic. Just gaining a different perspective is everything to me. So next, we're gonna look at how to clean it up. So how do you tend to these wounds once you've seen that golf ball hole is there? You kind of pull off a little bit of that dead skin that's kind of crusting over and not allowing the new red blood cells that are fresh, that are gonna cause true healing, to come in. What do you do? How do you clean it up? How do you start the process of redeeming and restoring and bringing fresh blood cells in so that wound can truly heal from the inside out, close up, and never, ever, ever return to its original state? Okay, so let's dig in. Alrighty, so here are the last steps to wound care, okay? This is the Unhook 'em series, and we're looking at wound care. How do you clean it up? So we talked about scraping off that dead skin. You're addressing that golf ball size hole that's been put in your body by the different wounds. Remember, each of your traumatic experiences have a different hole. It's not one hole, it's multiple holes. So you're going to address each and every one of these experiences and these situations as individuals, one at a time. You're not going to touch another wound until the one that you're addressing is tended to and until it's healed. Okay? Don't go jumping around, bouncing around from wound to wound, hole to hole. All you're going to do is just dig yourself in a ditch, because it's going to be overwhelming and you're going to feel as if you're never going to get there. Okay? So one at a time, baby steps here, and give yourself lots of grace and patience. There's no time frame. We talked about the stages going from acute to chronic takes weeks. That chronic wound has been there with you for weeks, months, years. Allow it time to get to its own stage when it's ready, okay? So how to clean it up. How do you clean a wound? So first thing you want to do is keep it clean, right? Voila! This is why washing your hands will keep the little cooties away. If you just went to the bathroom and didn't wash your hands for at least 2 birthday songs, do it again. Try it again. And don't be singing fast, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, like the kids. Go back in there and just, okay, let me just give you this little tip. When I go to the restroom and I wash my hands, washing my hands is time for me to like re-center myself, to ground myself, and to acknowledge like where I'm at in the moment. So try to practice that. It's something it'll keep you mindful of what you're doing for yourself throughout the day. Okay? So anyways, keep it clean. Don't add fuel to the fire. Okay? So what I always think about is water the healthy seeds and pull the unhealthy weeds. So if you're keeping the wound clean, you're not adding, like I said, salt to the wound. You're not going to do things that intentionally agitate it, right? You're not going to go and look at, your baby daddy's phone and check to see if he's texting some chick if you're already triggered. You're going to keep that wound clean. Now, I'm working on healing this wound, right? So I'm not going to go and add fuel to the fire. I'm not going to make it worse. So whatever your situation is, think of some practical ways that you can plant or pour water on the good seeds. One time, and this is where this came from. One time God told me, if you would start planting healthy seeds, then you would notice that things would start to grow for you. But instead, you keep planting seeds of despair. You're basically planting and projecting death upon the situation before you even give it an opportunity. So that's where this comes from. You want to keep it clean. You want to water the healthy seeds and pull the unhealthy weeds, okay? If something is making it worse, pull those weeds out. Pull them out. And if they're needing to be addressed, then address them. But pull the unhealthy weeds out and water what is healthy. Water what's going to make your wound feel better, okay? So if you keep scraping and you're noticing, you're like, oh my God, that is so painful. Why is that hurting so bad? Slow down, be more gentle with yourself. Don't be so aggressive. This is a wound that is literally touching your bone, remember? So it's sensitive and it requires your sensitivity in order for it to be able to heal properly. Okay, I know that's hard. It's very challenging. I've had a heck of a time learning to be patient and gentle with myself. But in the end, it's going to benefit you like nothing you've ever experienced before. When you embrace all parts of you and learn to accept that you are beautiful, fearfully, and wonderfully made just the way you are, it just changes your life. All right, the next thing to do is to cover the wound. So typically, if there's a wound, like I said, a bed sore or something like that, we would typically take that hole and cover it with some type of a Band-Aid, a cloth, a fabric, or something like that. I don't want you to cover this up per se. When I say cover the wound for us, that means to build a protective barrier around it. This means to create boundaries, to be aware of what triggers you, like I mentioned earlier in cleaning it up, right? Be aware of what's triggering you. If something is triggering you and it's making the situation worse, then we're going to try to avoid it, right? We're giving ourselves space, creating an open environment for this wound to heal, but we're not going to trigger it with aggression, okay? So keep it clean, cover the wound, and then we're going to avoid touching it. Once you get those initial dead cells off, you don't need to touch it again because your blood's going to just start to flow inside and it's going to be happy. Imagine a bunch of happy little RBCs jumping around. Yay, we're healing, we're healing, we're healing, we're healing. Okay, that's your red blood cells. That's what's going to happen to that wound. You're going to start to feel better. So don't agitate it and don't be aggressive with the wound. Again, this is the reminder when I say avoid touching. This is the reminder to be gentle and to be kind to yourself and to that specific wound as you're working on allowing it to heal. If you acknowledge that that wound is open, that it's present, that it's causing pain, that it may be disrupting your life, could possibly be the elephant in the room. When you acknowledge that, what you're going to notice is that as you acknowledge that, you scrape the little dead cells off by acknowledging it. That's going to be painful for you initially. And then you allow it to sit. You're going to notice that it's going to start to resolve on its own. So that's why we don't want to keep agitating it and being aggressive with it, because you're just going to make it worse. And then you don't ever allow it to settle into its new space that's being created, okay? Lastly, we are going to use topical agents when appropriate. And most important to me is that it's something that you love to do. I personally prefer anything that's natural. Okay, so the topical agents that are going to be applied when appropriate, typically on like a wound or something like this. If you have a wound at home, okay, if say my son like scratched his hand or something, I may get like some aloe vera or something natural like that to put on it. Okay, don't necessarily do that because it depends on the wound, depends on how big it is. Don't do that to your serious like actual wounds. Okay, we're talking about we're using an analogy of a trauma wound. Okay, so the topical agents that you would use when appropriate is natural healing solutions. So that's praying. Intentional. Be intentional about these things. Don't say, oh, I'm gonna pray and then lay in the bed and fall asleep. No, I'm gonna set 5 minutes aside to sit and to pray about this one specific trauma wound that I'm working on healing. Meditation. If you like things like, I don't know, sound baths, What else could you do? Therapy. You could do baths. Like, I love taking baths, just being able to just sit. Anything that you can do, get outside. Nature is amazing for healing, because you start to acknowledge the fact that you are this small in this huge world. You minimize your traumatic experiences when you get outside, because you realize that, God, I thought my life was only about this elephant. I thought it was only about this wound, when there's so much more accessible and available to me. So keep it clean, cover the wound, avoid touching it, and use a topical agent, some type of healing agent of your choosing when it's appropriate, okay? Alrighty, I hope that this has helped you. This wound care lesson was fun for me. I love digging into stuff like this, and I love the blood and the guts and I just love stuff like that. So anyways, I hope that this was good for you. Thank you, and please continue to allow me to support you and walk alongside with you. And if you would, please heal with me. Alrighty. Good night. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Drop your comments and let me know if you have any suggestions on video recommendations. I'm looking forward to what God's doing with this. Alrighty. Have a good night. Bye.